As I walk down the road one fine summer's morning.
I hate sex. Hate it. That man was obsessed with it. At it night and day he was. In his head. I know he's supposed to be a genius, but I tell you, I blame the Jesuits. Forgive me, Father.
You didn't hate it in the beginning. You loved it. You were desperate for it. Couldn't get enough of it. Couldn't give enough of it. You were so... Your hands were so...
I am not letting them get their greedy hands on our privacy. It's our business. What gives them the right to read and print and sell our private communications? It's nobody's business. Flocking around like vultures on a dead goose now. Begging for my words, our words, his words. Now, suddenly I'm fascinating, brilliant writer. Before I was an illiterate chambermaid, not worthy of him because I wasn't educated, wasn't literary enough for them. I know what they thought of me, that he married beneath him. Now my words are worth thousands. The dirtier, the better. They want to dig up the filth. They love it, like pigs sniffing up truffles. The filthier, the better. So that they can ooh and ah over how shockingly perverse we were, printing them everywhere, writing books, plays, films about our sex life. Everyone who knew him is suddenly a writer. They're all geniuses. We're all geniuses now, even me. When nobody gave a damn when I was pregnant in Trieste and we had to move 3 times a week because we didn't have enough money to eat, let alone pay the rent, because he insisted on being a writer.
You were a noose around my neck. I stayed with you when I could have been free, but I kept my word.
I'm going to tear them up, burn them. I would do it in the town square in front of them all if it wasn't for my rheumatism. Can you imagine? They'd be desperate to save what they could. Fight over the ashes of our words. His words that no one would dare touch before. No one wanted to publish because they said they were obscene. They didn't have the balls. Now they want our dirty letters, full of all the words that shocked them. Worse, much worse than was ever in that damn book of his. They want to dribble and drool over them, be horrified, pick us to pieces and then turn away in disgust. And what business is it of theirs? It's nobody's business. We are not public property.
Who cares? Let them be shocked. Let them see the truth. Rub their noses in our filth and let them choke on it.
I would have burned that blasted book if I'd had the chance. But I knew it was our ticket. Mad as it was. Our only ticket. I wish I'd married a butcher. A real man. Like my father. A man who could look after me. For God's sake, a man who could look after me and the poor children. They wouldn't be fighting over his words now, would they? Can you hear the lions, my love? I know you love them. Are you laughing now in your grave? I bet you're having a grand laugh at it all. Used to keep me awake all night. cackling away like a lunatic. I don't think there's much difference between lunatic and genius. They're one and the same. A genius is just a successful lunatic who's managed to fool the world. He fooled them all. He fooled himself. He fooled me.
I can hear the lions roaring. It sends shivers through me. I love and fear them. Like you, my love, I love you and fear you like thunder. To give is to fear, the greatest to give, the greater thing to lose. I gave myself to you totally, all of me. You knew who I was. I hid nothing from you. What more could I give you? What more could I want? You didn't like all of me, but I showed it to you. You could have punished me for revealing myself to you, but you never did. My dear sweet Nora, you never did. You just accepted me for what I was. You didn't like it, but you took it. I liked all of you, every inch. I wanted more and more inches. I wanted to be smothered in you, by you, all wrapped in you, by you, lost in you. The lions roar, keeping me awake like wolves to the moon. Come lie by my side, Nora, read to me. I can't see. I have nothing to read, nothing to write without your words. Speak to me. I can't rest without you.
Strings in the earth and air make music sweet. Strings by the river where the willows meet. There's music along the river, for love wanders there. Pale flowers on his mantle, dark leaves on his hair. All softly playing, with head to music bent, and fingers straying upon an instrument.
You kept my naive, sweet, sugary words, and you threw away my meat.
I had to sell chamber music. I needed the money. Some friends were kind and helped me, but I loved chamber music. I remember all the poems in it, so light and delicate, like Jim could be sometimes.
You loved the child I cared for least.
I'm not selling these, no matter how desperate I am. I'd rather starve to death than let them get their dirty paws on them.
Sell them and live in comfort on their stupidity. Let that be my gift to you, my love. Words and thoughts are indestructible. Once uttered, scatter to the four winds, the invisible sky of the mystics.
How do you feel?
Liberated.
Unlike Paris. Wow. What are we going to do with all this stuff?
Stuff? This isn't stuff. We have a library. The best library in the world, full of treasures, better than gold. This boring letter from Joyce is worth hundreds. People are desperate to read anything he touched. Ah, and this is worth thousands of francs now. God, people were complaining when it cost 100.
I can give your precious Ulysses to the butcher for a kilo of meat.
Well, he'd be a fool not to take it. When the war is over, this will be worth a fortune.
He'd probably use the paper to wrap his shop.
And his kidneys.
That man has destroyed everything you worked for. 20 years, all gone in a puff.
Which man are you referring to?
Ah, I do not hate men.
Maybe not, but you wish you were one.
Nonsense.
Can you imagine if Hemingway had been there today when the Nazi officer came in?
If he'd had a gun, he would have shot him right between the eyes. No hesitation.
And hung him on the wall next to Blake as a trophy.
And then carried on reading as if nothing had happened.
If he didn't have a gun, he would have boxed him to the ground.
Punched him right between the eyes.
And kneed him where the sun don't shine.
Or calmly taken Finnegan's Wake off the shelf as if he was going to sell it to him.
And bashed him on the head with it. I would have come round the other side and hit him with Ulysses.
Bloom would have killed the Nazis.
How apt. Our gentle Jewish hero killing a Nazi. I should have hit him with it.
You'd be dead if you had.
I hit him with my words.
Instead of Joyce's. And what would Joyce have done?
He would have asked him in perfect German what he thought of Ulysses.
He would have said in perfect German, I'm just fetching the manager. Called you and run away back out the back.
Look, being against violence doesn't make you a coward.
He would never have done for you what you did for him today.
I didn't do it for him. I did it for his work.
And would you have done it for any other writer?
I wouldn't sell Winnie the Pooh to the Nazis.
Maybe you should. It might tame them.
You should have seen him. He was so angry. He was shaking.
I'm surprised he didn't just grab Finnegan's Wake off the shelf at gunpoint.
He wanted me to sell it to him.
He wanted your respect.
He wanted me to obey his orders.
And pretend that it's completely normal to have German officers buying books in bookshops in wartime. They just want to believe they are civilized.
He told me that they appreciated Joyce immensely in Germany.
I'm not surprised.
Why?
Joyce was obsessed with detail, just like they are. I remember him surrounded by maps and charts of Dublin, timing every footstep Bloom would take.
He wanted things to be right.
He loved Trieste when it was Austrian, hated it when it became Italian.
He couldn't stand Italian bureaucracy. That doesn't make him a Nazi.
He arranged with the Austrians not to fight for his country so that he could leave Trieste.
With his eye trouble, he would have been a terrible soldier. He probably would have shot his own men. I'm glad he didn't fight. We wouldn't have Ulysses or Finnegan's Wake, or even Portrait if he had.
Hemingway drove ambulances during the First World War, and even your Winnie the Pooh writer fought. C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, Henri Barbusse, they all sacrificed their lives for others. Joyce never sacrificed himself for anyone. He just looked after number one. He ran away to Zurich in the First World War, and he ran back again in the Second.
Joyce is dead.
His body may be dead, but he still rules our lives and nearly took yours again today. I feel his spirit lurking.
He had nothing to do with me refusing to sell his book.
You can say what you like. Fool yourself if you want to. I'm not going to be a hypocrite and praise his genius just because he has passed over to the other side, even if he is listening. He would never have done for you what you did for him today. I don't care what you say about art and genius. He used you, and you let him walk all over you, and now you're letting him lead you to the grave.
He was brave in his work. He didn't compromise. He stuck to his principles. He could have written flowery novels that pleased everyone and lived a comfortable life, but he chose truth, as I do now.
He wasn't a literary Jesus.
Nor was he the Antichrist.
You still love him after everything that happened. You love him so much, you're ready to die for him.
I have my principles too. I am determined to live by a moral code. I'm not going to sacrifice my humanity just to live. You may butter up the butcher to get some chicken bones for soup, but I'd rather starve.
I don't do anything against my conscience. If we starve ourselves to death in protest, how have we won? What have we gained? What good would it do anyone?
This is the only way I can live. If I give it to them, I am dead.
Oh, but I can't lose you too. We have lost too many people, too much. You have lost your shop, your beautiful, precious shop that you worked so hard for, your love, your life.
If I had sold Finnegan's Wake to that monster, if I had to do what those creatures ask of me, then I would have lost everything. I would have no soul.
Then you should have left Paris when you had the chance. Why did you stay? You could have gone back to America and been free. I begged you to go.
Would you have come with me?
Oh, don't tell me to stay. You stayed for me. That's too much responsibility. No, I don't want it.
The war has entered our home.
We mustn't let in.
When we first met, I thought your eyes were the most beautiful blue, like Blake's.
And now?
Now they are even more beautiful. I see inside them.
And I thought your energy was like electricity. So exciting, like the eye of a storm, whirling continuously, like a wild dervish.
And now?
Now, I want peace. Okay, give me your hand. Your lifeline is still strong. Your heartline is even stronger. Your headline has completely vanished.
Oh. Shall we put some order back into our lives?
You can do that. I'm going to cook the potatoes. I queue up for 3 hours to get today with the butter I got from the butcher by rubbing his dick.
Adrienne, you didn't. I'm not eating it.
Of course I didn't. How can you ever think I would? I do have some principles too. No, I just kissed him.
Oh.
Miss Beach,
Mr. Joyce?
I was wondering if you could do me a small favor.
Where are you?
I'm in the graveyard in Zurich, near the zoo.
You're dead.
The thing is, I requested a telephone to be placed in my grave and a gramophone.
Are you alive?
They gave me the telephone, but not the gramophone.
Wait, is this Mr. James Joyce?
I would ask Nora, but she has terrible rheumatism and she can hardly move.
I resigned.
Yes, but I saw what you did today and I thought,
I don't have my shop anymore.
that reminds me.
It's gone.
Maybe you could pick me up some records for me to play on the gramophone.
It's gone. My shop. My whole life. It's all gone. Gone.
You know how much I love Verdi.
It's all gone. Gone.
Shh, it's okay. It's just a dream. Everything's okay. You're safe. It's okay.
It's not a dream, Adrienne. It's real. Everything's gone. I have nothing. What am I going to do? How am I going to live?
Don't worry. I looked after you. We'll think of something. Don't worry.
Open up! Open this door now!
Don't open it.
Miss Sylvia Beach, you are under arrest for spying against the German authorities!
No, no, don't go. Remember, your lifeline is long. Your lifeline is long. Your lifeline is long. Mr. James Joyce, if you weren't already dead, I would kill you. I know you're here. I can feel you. That once, if you can hear me. Do you really think your book is worth dying for? She did this for you, everything for you. If you have any power beyond the grave and your remorse, please save her. It is your duty. You owe her everything. She gave you everything. Who would you be without her?
Is this the great James Joyce?
James Joyce.
I'm so excited to meet you. I'm a great admirer of your work. I've read all your books.
I'm honored.
We are honored to have you in Paris.
We only just arrived 3 days ago. Mr. Pound suggested we move here. He thought it would be good for my books.
I'm sure he's right.
Let's hope so.
Pound was his usual playful self today, but you were clearly not amused.
You noticed?
I felt embarrassed for you.
I made a resolution not to drink at lunchtime.
And Pound was very naughty to tempt you so wickedly.
My brain will not fog till sundown.
A jolly good resolution for a writer. For anyone. I'm teetotal.
Mr. Pound has been kind to me. He arranged for me and my family to stay in a flat for free for a few weeks.
You deserve kindness, Mr. Joyce.
You have a beautiful voice. Has anyone ever told you?
No, never.
You sing?
My sister Holly is the singer in the family.
Do you prefer oranges or lemons?
Oranges.
Cats or dogs?
Cat.
Do you walk on the left or the right side of a person?
My left, their right.
And what do you do, miss?
Beach. Sylvia Beach. I run an English language bookshop and lending library.
You lend books for free.
I charge a small monthly subscription. I set it up for those readers who can't afford to buy books. I think it's criminal not to be able to read.
You're a good book Samaritan.
Yes. But funnily enough, it's the library that brings in the dough.
Your philanthropy is being rewarded as it should be.
Not just with pennies. We have all sorts of interesting members.
What is your literary haven called?
It's called Shakespeare and Company.
That's a delightful name. A delightful name. And where is it? I will come and visit you there. I'm rather fond of books.
It's number 8, Rue de Pitre.
Oh, is it coming in? Is it fierce?
Oh, that's just Spear's dog playing. He doesn't look fierce at all. He's hardly bigger than your hand.
I have a terrible fear of dogs. When I was 5, one of those animals bit me on the chin. I grew this to hide the scar.
Don't worry. Spear's dog couldn't reach your chin. The most he could do is pull your trouser leg.
Don't let him in.
Don't worry. I'll protect you.
I imagine there's a malevolent reality in the things I say I fear.
Such a baby he was, scared of thunder and dogs and the wrong date. If he'd believed in God, he might have relaxed more. He was such a weakling. I always had to be after his tail. I wish I had married a man like my father. Being married to a writer is such a hard life. He thought he knew women, but he didn't understand the first thing about us. He'd visit a prostitute and then pray to the Virgin Mary for forgiveness. That was before he renounced the church. After that, he couldn't even pray to her. He wanted me to be everything, just like every other man. Virgin, whore, mother, sister, father, brother, friend. He wanted to nestle in my womb. I wanted a man to look after me. I had enough headaches with the children. I didn't need another child. I had my own needs. Yes, he bought me nice clothes when he could, a fur coat, a pair of gloves. He liked me to look good. Sometimes dictated what I should wear. But I wanted more. Sometimes I cursed the day I met the man named James Joyce.
Indifferent, ignorant woman. I am no other man. I am an artist. You have no faith, no passion, no loyalty. Sane, amoral, fertizable, untrustworthy, engaging, shrewd, limited, prudent, indifferent vibe. Ich bin der Fleisch der Staatswert. Indifferent. Good morning, Miss Beach.
Good day, Mr. Joyce.
This is an ash plant stick from Ireland. It was given to me by an Irish officer, a British man of war that stopped in the port of Trieste.
Stephen Dedalus still has his ash plant.
Read me a line. Any line.
Oh me, oh life, of the questions of these recurring,
Of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish.
of myself, forever reproaching myself. For who more foolish than I, and who more faithless?
Of eyes that vainly crave the light, of the objects mean, of the struggle ever renewed.
Of the poor results of all, of the plodding and sordid crowds I see around me.
Of the empty and useless years of the rest, with the rest, me, intertwined.
The question, oh me, so sad, recurring. What good amid these, oh me, oh life?
Answer, that you are here, that life exists, and identity.
That the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse.
You picked an appropriate verse.
Do you know them all?
My mind is so.
Full of wit and wisdom.
Whitman was not appreciated by his countrymen.
It seems the fate of many great artists, but not you, Mr. Joyce.
Mr. Pound insisted I come to Paris. He is convinced that it is the best place for me now.
I am convinced he is right.
But I have 3 problems. Number 1, I have to find a roof to cover the 4 of us. Number 2, feeding and clothing my family. I spent all of my savings on moving to Paris. If you hear of anyone needing lessons, will you send them to Professor Joyce? I have a lot of experience. I taught for years in Trieste at the Berlitz School, and I gave private lessons. I also taught in Zurich.
Which languages?
English. This is a table. This is a pen. Also German, Latin, French.
Greek?
I know only modern. I picked it up from the sailors in Trieste.
Gosh, you put me to shame, Mr. Joyce. I only speak French and English.
Better than most. I also speak Italian, Spanish and Dutch. I learned Norwegian to read it, so then I learned Swedish and Danish. I learned Yiddish and Hebrew from a Jewish student of mine who was also a good friend.
Is he your Bloom?
Yes. How clever of you to guess.
How do you find time to write with all your students and language learning?
At night when the lessons are over, but it strains my eyes.
You must look after them.
My eyes were better when we were in Trieste. We were happy there.
Why did you leave?
But when the war came, the Austrians were ready to arrest me as a spy. But I managed to get a visa for me and my family to escape. I had the promise not to engage in any combat on either side.
I can't imagine you as a fighter.
I'm not a bloody-minded man.
I'm glad to hear it.
Death and birth are violent enough for me.
I would like to die reading.
Not one of my books, I hope.
I think it would be a great compliment.
In Zurich, my eyes got worse. Reading's becoming more and more strained. The doctor diagnosed the glaucoma.
Glaucoma?
You know, the grey eyes of Athena.
Such a beautiful name for a dreadful disease.
He operated on my right eye. Can you see the thick lens over it? I think it was a mistake to operate in the middle of the attack, and now my sight is impaired.
Is it difficult for you to write? Do you sometimes dictate?
Never. I always write by hand. I like to be held back. Otherwise, I would go too fast. I have to see my work as it's shaped, word by word.
Are you progressing with Ulysses?
I am. Slowly. All this moving around makes it hard to focus.
I can't wait to read the next installment.
I have been working on it for 7 years and I'm trying to finish it now. As soon as I'm settled, I will continue. A lawyer in New York is buying the manuscript part by part. I need the money desperately.
I will do my very best to help you find students and a roof. You shouldn't be wasting your energy on anything other than Ulysses.
That is my 3rd problem, publishing my book.
Is there any news from Margaret Anderson and her attempts to publish it in America?
The news from America is alarming.
Have there been more suppressions?
I fear so.
It's criminal.
I will keep you informed.
Please do.
How do we become a member of your philanthropic library?
You pay a small subscription and borrow a book. It would be a pleasure to have Mr. James Joyce as a member of my library.
It was a pleasure to see you again, Miss Beach.
And you, Mr. Joyce.
I remember my 3 problems.
I will do my best to help you.
I knew you were kind.
I'm sure I can easily get language students for you, and I know someone I can ask about a flat.
You are my savior.
The only thing I don't think I can help you with is the most important, your book.
If you can find an income to keep my belly from growling and my family from becoming cannibals, then you will be helping me with my book.
Well, you don't have to worry about cannibals, Mr. Joyce. There's nothing of you.
Been plumping Nora up with hot chocolate for years. Maybe she won't notice if I nibble on her thigh.
I'd better help you quick to save your wife.
If you see her looking slimmer, only you will know why.
It would be an honor to help you, Mr. Joyce.
I will return.
Wagner? Who said he says so?
Jim hated me listening to Wagner. He said, he stinks of sex. Talk about the kettle calling the pot.
Bellini is far better.
I used to go to the record shop and listen to Wagner for hours. He was my savior. I could escape. It wasn't only Jim who needed to get away. Oh, yes, I knew he wanted to sometimes, but I kept my mouth shut. I was ready to leave him 100 times, 1,000 times, but he wouldn't let me go. I knew that he felt trapped. He lusted after other women. I didn't care. Kept his dirty paws off me. Well, you only feel jealous in the beginning, don't you? Not after years of marriage. Unless you're Jim, that is. He was jealous of men I'd known before him. Can you imagine? Wanted me to be like the Virgin Mary until he came along and unleashed the animal in me, as if no other man could. He wanted to be special, to be different. I think he was jealous of my time with Wagner. He hated me liking something he didn't, told me to listen to Verdi instead. How controlling is that? I think he was jealous that I listened to another man's work. He said the plots were ridiculous.
What sort of fellow is this Tannhauser who, when he is with St. Elizabeth, longs for the bordello of Venisburg, and when he's at the bordello longs to be with St. Elizabeth?
A typical fellow, if you ask me.
And Siegmund, can you imagine this old German hero offering his girl a box of chocolates?
He said his musical effects were better than Wagner's. I liked Wagner's music. I liked the plots. I wanted to be transported to another world, free from everything. Jim had his mad world he could escape to in his books. I had Wagner. It's not like his books were so sane, was it? I used to ask him why he couldn't write normal books that everyone could understand. And he would just look at me as if I was the mad one. Even that jawless woman said his words were more like music, and he respected her opinion. She said he was more musical than literary. You should have stuck to the singing instead of bothering with writing. You had such a beautiful voice. You made me so happy the night you sang with John McCormack. Everyone appreciated you. The newspapers said you had a sweet tenor voice. No one said your blasted book was sweet. We could have been so happy if you'd just sung. Life wouldn't have been so hard. You were born to sing. That was a magical evening, Jim. I was so proud of you.
Down by the Sally garden, my love and I did meet. She passed by the Sally garden with little snow white feet. She bid me take love easy, as the leaves grow on the tree. But I, being young and foolish, with her would not agree. In a field by the river, my love and I did stand, and on my leaning shoulder she laid her snow white hand. She bid me take life easy, as the grass grows on the weeds. But I, being young and foolish, Oh, I need a whiskey.
You'll be fine, Jim. They'll love you.
I hope so.
It's truly outrageous that a great artist like Joyce should be living under such dire circumstances.
Invite them for dinner.
He should be able to focus on his book and not have to worry about petty things like money and bills.
We should all have that luxury.
Monstrosity, the United States Post Office, has seized the poor little review 3 times for printing extracts of Ulysses. I mean,
Do you think they like chicken?
the post office. The post office, which is supposed to be a service of communication, has become a spy in our homes. Those brave women editors are facing prison and losing the liveliest magazine of our times because of those barbarian brutes.
Or beef?
The wrong people are in power. They should be locked up for crimes against humanity, oppressing artists. It's insane, Adrienne. The world has gone mad.
The English-speaking world has gone mad, but in France, we are still free to print what we want. I will make a tarte tatin and a coq au vin for the Joyces. Call them up immediately and invite them for dinner. We cannot let our artists starve.
A great big piece of fat has been thrown into the fire.
They lost the case.
My book is deemed obscene.
Will they go to prison?
Mr. Quinn got them off with a fine.
And the little review?
It is no more.
The law is an ass. They are obscene. Who are these little ignorant people deciding on what is great literature or not?
My book will never come out now. No one dares touch it. Maybe I would have been more successful as a singer
Haven't done too badly as a rider.
Not good enough. I can't even feed my family or put a roof over their heads. I am a melancholic Jesus, not a literary one.
Would you let Shakespeare and Company have the honor of bringing out your Ulysses?
Really?
If you would let a small, unknown, totally inexperienced publisher like me publish your book,
I would be ecstatic.
well, I'd have to check with Adrienne.
Shakespeare and Company's sound advisor.
Well, I always consult her first. She is so wise.
If she is wise, she will say yes.
I hope so.
And I say yes, yes, yes.
The sun shines for you, he said, the day we were lying among the rhododendrons on Howth Head, in the grey tweed suit and his straw hat, the day I got him to propose to me, yes. First, I gave him the bit of seed cake out of my mouth hand. It was a leap year like now, yes, 16 years ago, my God. After that long kiss, I near lost my breath. Yes, he said. I was a flower of the mountain, yes. So we are flowers, all a woman's body, yes. That was one true thing he said in life, and the sun shines for you today. Yes, that's why I liked him, because I saw he understood or felt what a woman is, and I knew I could always get round him. And I gave him all the pleasure I could, leading him on till he asked me to say yes. And I wouldn't answer first, only looked out over the sea and the sky. I was thinking of so many things he didn't know of, Mulvey and Mr. Stanhope and Hester and father and old Captain Groves and the sailors playing All Birds Fly, and I say stoop and washing up dishes, they called it, on the pier, and the sentry in front of the governor's house with a thing round his white helmet, poor devil, half roasted, and the Spanish girls laughing in their shawls and their tall combs, and the auctions in the morning, the Greeks and the Jews and the Arabs and the devil knows who else from all the ends of Europe, and Duke Street, and the foul market all clucking outside Larby Sharon's, and the poor donkeys slipping half asleep, and the vague fellows in the cloaks asleep in the shade on the steps. The big wheels of the bulls in the old castle, thousands of years old, yes, and those handsome Moors all in white and turbans like kings asking you to sit down in their little bit of a shop in Ronda with the old windows of the Poseda's glancing eyes, a lattice hid for her lover to kiss the iron, the wine shops half open at night, and the castanets, and the night we missed the boat at Algeciras, the watchman going about serene with his lamp, and oh, that awful deep down torrent, oh, and the sea, crimson sometimes like fire, and the glorious sunsets, and the fig trees in the Almeida gardens, yes, and all the queer little streets and pink and blue and yellow houses, and the rose gardens, and the jessamine and geraniums and cactuses, and Gibraltar as a girl where I was a flower of the mountain, yes, when I put the rose in my hair, like the Andalusian girls used. Or shall I wear a red? Yes. And how he kissed me under the Moorish wall, and I thought, well, him as another, and then I asked him with my eyes to ask again, yes. And then he asked me, would I, yes, to say, yes, my mountain flower. And first I put my arms around him, yes, and drew him down to me so he could feel my breasts all perfume, yes. And his heart was going like mad, and yes, I said, yes, I will, yes.
She said yes.
She said yes. She said yes. She said yes, 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 yes. She said yes, yes, yes. The time. She said yes. She said yes. She said yes.
Yes.
He never asked me to marry him. Not like that, anyway. He asked me to go away with him to Zurich and live as if we were married. He said his conscience wouldn't let him commit such a hypocritical act. He was so honourable. Wrote me a letter, he did, explaining everything.
My dear Nora, I may have pained you tonight by what I said, but surely it is well that you should know my mind on most things. My mind rejects the whole present social order and Christianity. Home, the recognized virtues, classes of life and religious doctrine. How could I like the idea of home? My home was simply a middle-class affair ruined by spendthrift habits which I have inherited. My mother was slowly killed, I think, by my father's ill treatment, by years of trouble, and by my cynical frankness of conduct. When I looked on her face as she lay in her coffin, face grey and wasted with cancer, I understood that I was looking at the face of a victim, and I cursed the system which had made her a victim. 6 years ago, I left the Catholic Church, hating it most fervently. I found it impossible for me to remain in it on account of the impulses of my nature. I made a secret war upon it when I was a student, and I declined to accept the position it offered me. By doing this, I made myself a beggar, but I retained my pride. Now I make open war upon it by what I write and say and do. I cannot enter the social order except as a vagabond. I started to study medicine 3 times, law once, music once. A week ago, I was arranging to go away as a traveling actor. I could put no energy into the plan because you kept pulling me by the elbow. You have misunderstood, I think, some passages in a letter I wrote you, and I have noticed a certain shyness in your manner, as if the recollection of that night troubled you. I, however, consider it a kind of sacrament, and the recollection of it, it fills me with amazed joy. You will perhaps not understand at once why it is that I honor you so much on the account of it, as you do not know much of my mind. But at the same time, it was a sacrament which left in me a final sense of sorrow and degradation. Sorrow because I saw in your extraordinary melancholic tenderness, which had chosen that sacrament as a compromise, and degradation because I understood that in your eyes I was inferior to a convention of our present society. I am an enemy of the ignobleness and slavishness of people, but not of you. Can you not see the simplicity which is at the back of all of my disguises? We all wear masks. Certain people who know that we are much together often insult me about you. I listen to them calmly, disdaining to answer them, but their least word tumbles my heart about like a bird in a storm. It is not pleasant to me that I have to go to bed now, remembering the last look of your eyes, a look of tired indifference, remembering the torture in your voice the other night. No human being has ever stood so close to my soul as you stand. It seems, and yet you can treat my words with painful rudeness. Believe me, my dear Nora, I honor you very much, but I want more than your caresses. You've left me again in an anguish of doubt.
Guess what, Ma? My little bookshop is going to publish James Joyce's Ulysses. Just you wait and see. We are going to be famous. You won't regret giving me all of your savings. I have to go, Ma. I have a customer.
Good day, Miss Beach.
Good day, Mr. Joyce.
Any news?
Adrienne helped me produce this pamphlet for the subscribers.
Wonderful. Are you sure you want to do so many? Don't you think 12 would be enough?
Mr. Joyce, we are printing 1,000 copies of Ulysses, and that most certainly won't be enough.
You think I'm so popular?
The whole world will want to read Ulysses.
Whatever you say, Miss Beach, you're the boss.
Adrienne's friend Durantier has agreed to print. He knows I have no money and we have to wait for subscribers, but he loves the fact that it was banned in America.
Can he produce the blue of the Greek flag for the cover?
He thinks he can.
He thinks he can. He knows he can. He's our man. Our fortunes are turning, Miss Beach. They're turning. Minerva is on our side.
Oh, that reminds me. I have a new assistant starting tomorrow. She's Greek.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you, Miss Beach? This is the best omen of them all. All augurs well for Ulysses. I bless the day. I bless the day I met you, Miss Beach. What date is it? Do you remember?
It was July.
7th month, auspicious.
Was it the 12th? I can't remember. Or the 13th.
No, it must have been the 12th. It can't have been the 13th. It is the number of death. 1 and 3 make 4 and 4. Most unlucky for the Chinese.
It was the 11th.
Of course, 1 and 1 make 2. You were made for me and I for you. All will be well, Miss Beach. All will be well. Nora! Oh, they've got a ton of drugs, shameless, primitive people to hide their fornications in caves of big civilized life. Nora, I cannot see.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women.
What good will that do, Nora?
What harm?
It is a hypocrisy.
It's not hypocrisy for me. Who else is going to help you if not God? I saw you go to church.
It was just research, Mother.
I saw you.
I simply wanted to compare the Italian with the French recitation.
I see you. He thought his eyes were a punishment for his sins. But he didn't believe in sin, or God, or anything. And he didn't want me to believe. Treated me like I was a traitor because I didn't hate the church. We weren't allowed to baptize the poor children. Well, that was an easy threat. If I wanted him to do something, all I had to say was, I'll baptize the children if you don't. That put the fear of God in him. Helen and Giorgio baptized their children in secret. Can you imagine? That's how fanatical he was. His own son hiding his grandson's christening. That was their sin in his eyes. He said Irish Catholicism was like black magic, only because he was so stupidly full of fear and superstitions, he made it that way. But I used to pray for him. I prayed for his health, and his stomach pains, and his drinking, and his poor eyes. He didn't stop me. He couldn't. I think he was secretly glad.
I brought the book you asked for, The Lady of the Lake.
Miss Beach, how kind of you to come.
Try keeping me away, Mr. Joyce.
Read it to me with your beautiful voice.
Harp of the North, that mouldering long hast hung,
on the witch elm that shades St. Fillan's spring,
and down the fitful breeze thy numbers flung,
till envious ivy did around thee cling.
muffling with verdant reed every string.
O minstrel harp, still must thine accents sleep,
Mid rustling leaves and fountains murmuring,
still must thy sweeter sounds their silence keep.
nor bid a warrior smile, nor teach a maid to weep.
Not thus in ancient days of Caledon was thy voice mute amid the festal crowd, when lay of hopeless love or glory won, aroused the fearful or subdued the proud.
You are a veritable encyclopedia, Mr. Joyce.
Maybe losing my sight, but not my cells.
Your sight will be good as gold. I'm sure the operation has worked.
I think Sir Key must be revenging herself for the unpleasant things I've written about her legend.
Penelope will rise to your defense.
I can almost see you as though you were made of light.
Really? Maybe we are.
As if I have an eye in my forehead.
Like Cyclops.
How are the subscriptions of my monster going?
We already have hundreds of subscribers for Ulysses. Hemingway ordered 7 copies. McCalman combs the nightclubs every night, and Pound got Yates to sign.
The tide is turning.
I'm going to send Bernard Shaw a prospectus. I'm sure he will sign up immediately. His secretary told me he is very kind.
He will never subscribe.
Why not? I think he will support the work of a fellow Irish writer.
Will you bet on it?
I will indeed, and I will win.
If I win, which I am sure to, I would like a box of Voltigers, a little luxury I can't afford at present,
And I would like a silk handkerchief.
to dry your tears on.
I will be crying with happiness when Shaw subscribes.
You'll need a handkerchief to wave away the smoke from my little indulgence. Shake on it. I wonder how much we can tell from touch. Would I know the color of your skin if I had not seen
it? Dear Madam, I have read fragments of Ulysses in its serial form. It is a revolting record of a disgusting phase of civilization, but it is a truthful one. And I should like to put a cordon round Dublin, round up every male person in it between the ages of 15 and 30, force them to read all that foul-mouthed, foul-minded derision and obscenity. To you, possibly, it may appeal as art. You are probably, you see, I don't know you, a young barbarian, beglamoured by the excitements and enthusiasm that art stirs up in passionate material. But to me, it is all hideously real. I have walked those streets and know those shops and have heard and taken part in those conversations. I escaped from them to England at the age of 20, and 40 years later have learned from the books of Mr. Joyce that Dublin is still what it was, and young men are still driveling in slack-jawed blackguardism, just as they were in 1870. It is, however, some consolation to find that at last somebody has felt deeply enough about it to face the horror of writing it all down, and using his literary genius to force people to face it. In Ireland, they tried to make a cat cleanly by rubbing its nose in its own filth. Mr. Joyce has tried the same treatment on the human subject. I hope it may prove successful. I am aware that there are other qualities and other passages in Ulysses, but they do not call for any special comment from me. I must add, as the prospectus implies an invitation to purchase, that I am an elderly Irish gentleman, and if you imagine that any Irishman, much less an elderly one, would pay 150 francs for such a book, You know little of my countrymen. Faithfully, George Bernard Shaw.
Miss Beach, the barbarian, can send my cigars now.
I made it of one with Mr. Shaw, but I have found another typist for you.
Miss Beach, you are a marvel.
That's the 9th one. I hope she can read your handwriting.
I'll do my best, but it's hard for me to see now.
You could dictate.
They would have to be by my side day and night. Words come to me unbeckoned. Sometimes just one or two. Other times they come flooding out of me like a tempest.
They wouldn't get any sleep. He used to drive me mad all night, writing away and laughing at his own jokes, like a madman. I used to say, stop writing or stop laughing. I've no idea if that man was the genius everyone said he was, but I'm sure of one thing. There was nobody like him.
Miss Beach? Miss Beach? What happened?
Please sit down. My head is bursting.
What happened?
The typist's husband read your manuscript.
Oh, is that all? I thought something terrible had happened.
He said it was obscene and threw it into the fire.
Oh, he was always fainting. It wasn't the alcohol, it was some great event, like seeing nuns on the street. Or the wrong number come up. 13 was the death number. Such a delicate soul. He took all the superstitions from all the world and followed them, like a madman. He once made me lure a black cat into the bedroom because he thought it would bring him luck. Wouldn't get out of bed till it walked across it. He threw his own work in the fire once, the whole manuscript of Portrait, because I wouldn't spend the morning in bed with him with the maid there, like a spoilt child. Luckily, his sister Eileen was there and she rescued it. He was such an emotional creature. I think he was more like the woman in the relationship. I was the one that had to be strong and grounded. If I'd fainted, he would have fallen flat and fainted at the sight of me. When I was in the clinic having my operation, he insisted on staying in the next bed. He needed more attention from the nurses and doctors than I did. In the end, they put him in another room to give me some peace and quiet. Ridiculous man. You know, sometimes I really wondered if he was mad. Cosgrave warned me he was insane before I ran away with him to Europe, but I thought it was just jealousy talking because he couldn't have his way with me.
I had a thought. Do you remember telling me that you were sending your manuscript to a lawyer in America and he was paying you?
Mr. Quinn.
Maybe he can send it to us, just as a loan, till it is printed.
Miss Beach, you're a genius. Of course he will. How could he not? I will call him, or maybe you should call him on my behalf. Do you think that's better? As my publisher, you?
Maybe.
Das Buch ist ein Schwein. He was so easy to scare. I sobered him up once by saying I'd torn up the manuscript. Don't look so shocked. You can't imagine what it was like for me to be thrown into the life of that man. You'd have done worse, I bet you. I should have torn it up, thrown it in the fire, then I wouldn't have to be doing this. If he hadn't published that damn book, they would have left us alone, left me alone, in peace.
He said no. But it's my work, my creation. How can he think he has more right over it?
Sadly, Mr. Joyce, money talks. He paid you for the installments, so he believes they belong to him. He won't even agree to them being copied.
7 years. 7 years I have slaved. wrenched out my guts, all for nothing.
He spent 16 years thinking about that blasted book, and then 7 years writing it. I told him he should have been a singer. He said it was because he couldn't read music, but he could have learned. He was a genius, wasn't he? He knew everything else.
I called Mr. Quinn again to appeal to his better nature, and he agreed to having his manuscript photographed.
Miss Beach, you have saved me again. You are my unorthodox Samaritan.
Mademoiselle Beach, these corrections to the text that you have sent me are totally unreasonable. It will cost me and you a fortune to make these changes. It is not possible.
Mr. Joyce must have his text precisely as he wishes it.
But have you seen the number of changes he wishes to make on every page? I have to totally redo almost every section. It will cost money and take time.
It must be done as Mr. Joyce wishes, whatever the cost.
This is not normal, Mademoiselle Beach. Most irregular. Are you sure you can afford this?
We must afford it.
I am worried for you, Mademoiselle.
The book must be exactly as Mr. Joyce wants it to be.
I will do what I can.
Did you get the blue for the cover?
That is another expense. I will have to go to Germany for the blue Mr. Joyce wants, precisely as on the Greek flag. It has not been easy to find.
These details are important, Monsieur Dorantier. We cannot compromise on a work of genius.
This is a work of madness, Mademoiselle.
That is for the readers to decide, Monsieur.
If it is ever finished, with all these changes, it will take a lifetime.
Mr. Joyce would be grateful if you could have it ready by the 2nd of February. He is very superstitious, and that is his 40th birthday. It would mean a lot to him.
There is no way, Mademoiselle, that it will be ready by then with all this extra work. And it would mean a lot to me if you could pay me the 5,000 francs you owe me by Christmas.
I have written to my sister, and she is sending the money over from America. It will get to you in time.
I hope Mr. Joyce appreciates all that you and your family are doing for him, Mademoiselle Beach.
He is an artist, Monsieur. We mortals can only serve him and his needs. I don't want him worrying about petty details. He needs to focus on his work.
We all need to eat, Mademoiselle, and I need to feed my family and buy ink for my press.
You will get your money, Monsieur Dorantier. Please don't worry and have a good day.
Dear Miss Beach, will you please add in a phrase or two from Eve's note and anticipations and send a prospectus to the printer at once, asking him to have it proved quickly. We can add in Larbeau's sentence or two and possibly the Times if I can get one. These could be added on the proof. With kind regards, sincerely yours, James Joyce. Dear Miss Beach, nothing came today, so will you please either give Giorgio what you can or else check for him to cash till Tuesday, and in such a way that his friend will not be au fait. I shall be around in half an hour. In haste, James Joyce. Dear Miss Beach, I forgot the drops. Would you be kind enough to ask Dr. Bosch for a prescription and get your assistant to pick them up for me from the pharmacy? Sincerely yours, James Joyce.
Mademoiselle Beach, this is totally unacceptable. I have had 40 pages of changes to the printed text today, and no money has arrived. I am not a charity for struggling artists. This has got to stop.
Cypric, how are you? I'm so sorry to trouble you, and I'm really sorry for being such a bad sister and not writing all this time. But can you lend me 5,000 francs? I will pay you back soon, I promise. I have to pay the printer for Ulysses. I'm sure it will be a big success, and I will be able to pay you back pronto. Monsieur de Rentier, please accept my apologies for all the stress I have put you under. I assure you that one day you will look back on these times and be grateful that you fulfilled my crazy, unreasonable, nonsensical requests. I will do anything it takes, pay you whatever you need, come to Lyon, work all night with you, but please, let me have just one copy of the book printed for the second, even if it is not perfect, so that I can present it to Mr. James Joyce on his birthday. I promise you, I will pay you every centime I owe you. You are printing a great book, monsieur, and it has to be perfect. You won't regret it. I promise. I have a present for you, Mr. Joyce. Happy 40th birthday.
There are no words. There are no words, Miss Beach. No words. Who is Sylvia? What is she that all our scribes commend her? Yankee, young and brave is she, the West this pace did lend her, that all books might published be. If she rich as she is brave, for wealth oft daring misses, throngs about her rant and rave to subscribe for Ulysses, but having sighed, they ponder grave. Then to Sylvia let us sing, her daring lies in selling. She can sell each mortal thing that's boring beyond telling. To her, let us buyers bring. To Sylvia.
To Ulysses.
To Ulysses. I'm going to sing the brown and the yellow whale. Nora. Nora loves this one.
I do. Love it.
As I walk down the road one fine summer's morning, oh, the brown and the yellow whale, I met with a young man without any warning. Oh, love of my heart, he asked me if the woman by my side was my daughter. Oh, the brown and the yellow whale, well, I said 'twas my wife, his mallard daughter. Oh, love of my heart.
That's
Yeah.
great now, Jim. Thanks.
Well,
Lovely.
I want to see one more. Oh, okay. All right then. If
I
you
think
say-
everyone should go home now, Jim.
Okay. All right now. The three great shrouds about me.
He may be a genius, but look what I have to put up with.
But Nora, my eyes. Bring the leeches. Oh, what would I do without you, Nora?
I know where I'd be without you.
Don't leave me, Nora.
How can I? He's completely helpless.
Oh, you are my world. Oh, if we could go away someplace and just talk and talk and talk and talk like we used to, I would be in bliss. Oh.
Dear God in heaven, I know we are unworthy of your love, especially Jim.
My
Please
eyes.
take away his pain so he can write. Please, God, take his pain away.
Dear Miss Beach, I cannot let today pass without thanking you for all the trouble and worry you've given yourself about my book during the last year. All I can hope is that the result of its publication may be of some satisfaction to you. Will you please telegraph to Darren Tier telling him in my name also to get on with the covers, otherwise you wish to get only 20 copies. Grazie de novo. Dear Miss Beach, could Miss Monnier's girl or someone else take a copy to Miss Barney? Could you send 5 or so to Galliani? Can you advance Giorgio from my account 200 francs in a cheque which he can cash, or I shall, if I can, I'll call it noon. I understand that the English edition of Ulysses will not be published until next April. I think Mademoiselle Monnier ought to know the following facts about the current price of my book. The day before I left for Paris, the manager of Galliani's told me that he had sold a copy that morning for 650 francs. Miss Beach, can you hear me? Hello?
It's time for our holiday. No more chores for Mr. Joyce.
Of all the money that here I spent it in good company. Of all the comrades that here I had, they are sorry for me going away, for all I've done, for want of which to memory now I must recall.
You know, I didn't get a single migraine while we were away. Do you think it's the fresh air or the fresh milk?
Could you send Mr. Petrie a postcard and ask him to call on you and find out if there's any possibility of getting the flat?
No.
My son will be in Paris soon. I expect his first need will be for some money.
No.
If there is any credit to my name, you may advance him what he wants.
She told you her mother died 1 month ago.
Here is a pamphlet. Will you please send it to Brosh with a few lines typed?
No. Oh, no. Say no. She needs to rest. Her mother died. She's not well. She needs peace.
Is there any objection to copying the enclosed letter and sending it to the address of the critic?
I should have said no. I wish I'd said no. That yes is the most fatal of them all. Don't ever say yes. It's a trick. They fool you all your life. When you're a little child, telling you all your dreams will come true. When your prince comes along, all your troubles will be over. It's a lie. That's when they start. It's a trap. You're better off on your own. Free.
Can you manage to send these photos tonight per registered address too?
I owe the English publishers over £200.
I'm trying to arrange a party.
The 15th is the date on which they must be paid.
I have inquirers at Langer's.
I have not a sufficient provision in the bank to meet all the bills, and shall try to get some of the more lenient publishers to wait a fortnight. But it makes business relations very unpleasant.
I have to exist to the second, and for the party I shall need
There are a lot of American bills too.
between 1,000 and 2,000 francs.
I never try to borrow from my family.
I have written to my solicitors
They are too poor.
for an advance of 10,000 francs.
From what you tell me, you have only a few thousand francs left. And the balance of your royalties for Ulysses will barely cover your rent on the 15th.
But it may not reach me by Wednesday morning.
You will get a big price for the manuscript of the Dubliners,
I received a check for 2,500 francs in the morning of the 3rd.
but I imagine that Rosenbach will pay only a small part of the sum down.
I shall have to leave a deposit.
The rest he will settle up later.
I suppose.
I am afraid I and my little shop will not be able to stand the struggle to keep you and your family going from now until June, or to finance the trip of Mrs. Joyce and yourself to London with money jingling in your pocket. It is a very terrifying prospect for me. I have already many expenses for you that you do not dream of. Everything I have, I give you freely. Sometimes I think you don't realize it. You said to Miss Weaver that my work was easing off. The truth is that as my affection and admiration for you are unlimited, so is the work you pile on my shoulders. When you are absent, every word I receive from you is an order. The reward for my unceasing labor on your behalf is to see you tie yourself into a bow knot and hear you complain. I am poor and tired too. And I have noticed that every time a new terrible effort is required from me, my life is a continual 6 hours with sprints every 10 rounds, and I manage to accomplish the task that is set to me. You try to see how much more I can do while I am about it. Is it human?
The first kiss. First love. There's nothing like it. I remember when I was a girl and a young man fell in love with me. And he came and he sang in the rain under an apple tree outside my window. And he caught tuberculosis and died.
Did he sing more sweetly than me?
Woman killer.
Man killer. I've had some offers to publish Ulysses in America.
Oh, that's fantastic news.
I said that you'd have to agree.
Of course I agree. Why wouldn't I?
Will you put it in writing?
Well, of course, if you wish.
I must go. I'm meeting some friends at Foucault's for lunch. Could you set your terms and send them around this afternoon?
My terms?
Good day, Miss Beach.
Mr. James Joyce, André Gide thinks you're a saint. What André Gide doesn't know, and like the sons of Noah, we put a veil over it, is that you are, on the contrary, very concerned by success and money. You wish others also to go the limit. In Paris, rumor has it that you're spoiled, that we have ruined you with overwhelming praise, and that you no longer know what you're doing. In my personal opinion, you know perfectly what you're doing in literature, and that you're quite right to do it, especially if it entertains you. Life isn't so funny in this vale of tears, as Mrs. Bloom says. But it's folly to wish to make money at any cost with your new work. Or I won't say you can make any. Everything is possible, but it is most unlikely. We haven't the slightest desire, Sylvia and I, to become associated with Gahan. Times are hard, and the worst isn't over. We're traveling now 3rd class, and soon we'll be riding the roads. Give my best regards to Mrs. Joyce and Lucia. And be assured, dear Mr. Joyce, of my very great and faithful admiration. Adrienne Monnier.
That Beach woman must have made a fortune out of Jim's book. I told him to be firm with her. We were living like paupers and she was raking it in. How could she not have made money? Cost a fortune and it was selling like hot potatoes. The whole world wanted it. Giorgio and I told him to be firm, be strong, get what he deserved. What we deserved after all those years.
You are standing in Joyce's way. If you don't drop your petty demands to get $25,000, no one is going to publish Ulysses.
I'm only asking for the amount I have spent in the last 10 years. That book cost me a fortune, not only in francs, but in time and energy and life.
If he doesn't get an American publisher, it will be your fault, and yours alone.
Mr. Joyce, I relinquish all rights to Ulysses. It is yours. I ask for nothing, I resign. And I can no longer act as your secretary and servant. Please do not ask me to perform any more tasks for you. My health cannot take it. I need to rest.
I will never be your first love, only your last. I will appear to you after death. You will see my ghost after death. My ghost will haunt you after death.
You had every right to ask for what you did. You gave Joyce 10 years of your life. What you asked for was nothing. It disgusts me.
Ulysses was his baby, not mine.
What life would it have had without you?
The baby belongs to the mother, not the midwife.
He uses people, eats them up, and then spits them out when there is no meat left on their bones for him to scavenge. Oh. You can rest now. It's over. At least now we'll have some peace. Let's go back to the mountains, and see if your headaches clear up again.
And now has come the war. The war. And now has come the war, the war. And now has come the war, the war. For soldiers are they gone now? For soldiers all. Soldiers and soldiers all. All. Soldiers must die. Must die. Soldiers must die. Soldiers and soldiers and soldiers all must die. What man is there to kiss now? To kiss. To kiss, oh white soft body, this thy soft, sweet whiteness.
I pray to all the gods of Israel, whomever you may be, look down with pity on your people and set them free. How can you stand by and watch all this suffering?
Dear Mr. Collum, you clearly didn't put the matter strongly enough to the Irish Minister of Justice to free my friend Herman Brosh. I insist that you make every effort possible to give him papers so that he may leave Vienna and travel to England safely. Do you realize that a life is at stake here? You must do what you can to help. How can you sleep at night?
Jim was completely obsessed with saving as many people as he could, writing letter after letter, calling everyone he knew. I didn't think there was anything we could do. What could we do?
Could you please arrange a residence permit for Mr. Sowerman? I am sure he would be safer in Ireland. I'm glad you didn't live to see these times, Swaber. I would have killed you. I'm doing what I can to help your kin. But people are reluctant to help. They have to be pushed. They have no conscience. Your friend Freud escaped to London, thankfully, but for the others, when you died, I was devastated, but now I'm happy you have gone. Your innocent soul was saved. Od valeva enima nefesh Yehudi omia ulafat amevra agima ein letzion Sophia. Od lo adva tiktaveanu atigvad bashut alpaim niudom koshi ve'atasem eretzion Vilushalayim niudom koshi ve'atasem eretzion Vilushalayim.
He saved 16 lives with his words. My Jim.
You survived. Thank God you survived. But I think you put on wine? No, but how is that possible?
I know. I felt so guilty every time I ate. We were actually smuggling food out of the camp to help the local farmers who had nothing.
Who must go first? Alone, under the ground, and lie no more in her warm bed. Only sad me. La chidarem la mon, la midirisi. Vidina elando, potiamo
Vorrei e non vorrei.
La ci darem la mano, la mi dirissi, vidina e lontano, patiamo en guardar.
I had 3 great loves in my life. Adrienne, Monnier, Shakespeare and Company, and James Joyce. It was the summer of 1920, when my bookshop was in its first year, that I met James Joyce.
When one recognizes the importance of the symbol in Joyce's work and the constant care that he takes to establish mystical correspondences, one is struck by the fact that the first person who received him in France and put him in contact with his future publishers is a Jewish poet. For Joyce had created in Ulysses a great type of Jewish humanity, and he was to find with us a place favorable to the appearance of his work and the establishment of his reputation.
La ci darem la mano, la mi dirissi, vidina e lando, potiamo
Vorrei e non vorrei.
You burn the words you do not like, but words once uttered survive.
I'm so happy you're here, Nora. Come lie by my side.
You're still an idiot pervert, Jim. There'll be none of that in the afterlife. I hope.
When she told me her story, I lay down and died. Oh, the brown and the yellow whale, she sent 2 men for timber and never even cried. Oh, love my heart.